Today I'm just going to take this opportunity and take you through the background of how our company started, how our team came together, and take you through the process that we take and an overview of the product we have. So going back, the whole concept started in 2019 when we went to places that national retail stores, any of them that you can imagine. We walked into those stores and 100% of the knives in those retail kitchen stores were made in Japan, Germany, or low end China. There were no American-made kitchen knives available to any of those stores. We said, why not? Because we knew that some of the highest quality knives are made for artisan in the US, but they're like over $1,000 and they're very hard to get and you have to win the lottery. So that led us to start a company. Myself, Ron Khormaei, I'm CEO and founder of STEELPORT. Joined forces with my co-founder, Eitan Zayas, who has 25 years of experience making knives, sharpening knives. And we brought in 12 of experts, artisans, people who are dedicated to making the best knives. And we really were forced to make the best knife we could possibly make, and not just average knife. As you can imagine, if you go to any stores and they have, they never carried American knives before, you can't just simply have an average knife. Why would they carry you? So we had to set up our knives so much better that people go, wow, this is amazing. It just happened to be made in the US and in Portland. Might as well give it a shot. So that led us to the process that I'm going to take you start with. So this is a display of our process. We start from a billet of carbon steel, 52-100 ball bearing carbon steel. And then 134 steps later, we end up with the final knife that you see here, which is the 8-inch chef knife process. Out of that process, we have a couple of key differentiations. One of them is we are actually the only company in the US left that does a full tank forging of the knife. We do a drop forge carbon steel. And if I ask you how is the knife made, you probably think about a blacksmith hammering down on an anvil like this. This is pretty much the process that you use minus the burly blacksmith. They have much bigger hammers. But the result is that allows you to have the best possible product, not only knives, but any products. Actually, if you look at our icon, as you probably on my shirt is the best one, is actually industrial hook. If look at the reason we chose industrial hook is industrial hook has to also be forged. It cannot be stamped, it cannot be things like that. And you can see kind of on the wall our icon, and that kind of reminds us, why forging is the best, providing the best areas. And we have a lifetime warranty and free sharpening, so it's very important to start with a good ingredient. The second differentiation we have is our heat treatment. A simple way of thinking about knife making is analogous to baking a cake. When you bake a cake, you start from a good ingredients, carbon steel, forging, but then you have to get it to the right temperature, let it be on at the right levels and cycle it appropriately. In the knife making world, that's referred to as heat treatment. We actually have an 8-step process that we take at very high temperature to cryo liquid nitrogen. And that process is about 8 steps compared with typical processes for knives that are about 2 or 3 steps. The final result allows us to get the best characteristics of the steel. And in knife making, there is a sought after trifecta, which is you want to make the knife as hard as possible. The harder you make, the sharper the edge becomes, and it stays sharp for a long time. And then you also, at the same time, you don't want to become brittle, so it doesn't chip, and still be sharpenable. We were able to our heat treatment that took us a couple of years to develop. We managed to get to 65 Rockwell hardness. That's the highest in the kitchen knives out there. As a reference, typical like a German knives are about 58, 59. Japanese knives are able to make it all the way up to 61, 62, but they have a tendency of chipping when you hit like a chicken bone type thing. We're at 65 Rockwell hardness, 3 levels higher, and we are tough enough that we actually test by hammering through a brass rod. Life wasn't difficult. We added one more complexity. And if you look at the knives, you can see a difference in the color on the blade. This bottom part is lighter, is actually 65. We keep the spine and handle soft. There's no reason for it to be hard. And actually, because of a lifetime warranty, we want it to be soft. Over the next 40, 50 years, the knife will fall on the ground, it will be thrown around. We want to make sure it survives. So the difference in the color you see is actually refers to hardness. This is a you can get this down to like 28 or 30 Rockwell, but this is remaining at 65. The rest of the process is more standard setup. We thin the blade down. We polish it to a mirror finish. Carbon steel, by polishing, there's less place for water to hide, so it takes longer to react with moisture. And then we have the final step that's very Portland, Pacific Northwest. We actually dip the coffee. We dip our blades into coffee. And what coffee does provides a layer of protection between steel and the food type thing. And that's the place we actually copy the concept from cast iron. You will not buy a cast iron skillet if it's not pre-seasoned and seasoning. Why not the knife? And so that's what the coffee patina does. The other advantage of coffee patina is coffee stains hard and soft steel differently. So if you look at it, it's actual, the lighter, the harder steel is lighter, and the softer steel is darker. So not only that gives you a little bit more of a beauty, but also indicates that this was heat treated and heat treated correctly. If it wasn't, it would be all black, all light with spots of black light. So not only beautiful, but it's actually functional, that look. The handle has its own life cycle. We start from Oregon big leaf maple. It grows in the Pacific Northwest. Wood is beautiful, looks beautiful, feels good, but your kitchen expands and shrinks and cracks. So we actually stabilize it. We basically put it in 4 days under vacuum in a resin, and then we bake it. So every air gap that it has gets filled with resin and baked. So now it's a little bit of a heavier component, but lasts as long as the blade does. Then we grab this stabilized wood and we make a handle, machine the handle out of it. And that allows us to be the only company in the world that has a one-piece handle for a full tang blade. If you're familiar, for example, Japanese style of knives typically have one-piece handle, but they have to have a rat tail blade that goes into it. European style, they go for a full tang as the best blade, but then they have scales to attach to it. They have been able to solve the problem by machining and spending a lot of time and energy to fit this thing. And the final result is something that fits in perfectly, so it doesn't fall off and stays there. Doesn't have its steps here, so it stays comfortable. You can contour it at the end to make it fit into your hand. And again, because of a lifetime warranty, we don't want something that falls off or has damage type either to the blade or the handle. The only big disadvantage is that by the time we get to this point, our handle costs more than a typical knife to make the whole thing. So the final product, and every product we make, has to pass 3 requirements. First one, it has to look beautiful. If it doesn't, it's hard to buy it. It's hard to buy it as a gift, to give it as a gift. At the same time, we abhor hood ornaments. Beauty for sake of beauty is not our target. We really want something that's functional. If you look at the knife, the color difference, as I mentioned, is not just looks good, but it also has a functional. It's a promise of heat treatment and treatment correctly and the 65 Rockwell hardness. But kitchen knife is all about usage. So if you look at it, this knife is well balanced. I challenge you to do that with any knife you have in your knife drawer. Every place that you touch is rounded. We have a finger hole and a curved bolster. Those are designed to allow you very comfortable pinch hold. The handle, as I mentioned, is one piece, Oregon big leaf maple, contoured and wrapped around the full tang, so it fits your hand comfortably. If you have a large hand, it comes back up here. Smaller hand chokes up and it still remains comfortable. And the third requirement we have, everything has to be US sourced and locally made. That's our product line going through it and this thing. So let me take you through the factory and show you some of the areas that we work on. Starting from our blocks, we actually have a wood block that we put in a resin, and as I mentioned to you, this goes under vacuum for 24 hours, and then we put it in the oven to bake for another 12 hours type in. So there's a product in the vacuum there. The next step I was discussing was coffee patino. So it's actually literally our coffee, which my coffee expert friend says not coffee, it's espresso to be exact. So this is pretty dark coffee. And the history of that was we wanted to have that patina, pre-patina before we ship it to the customers. And no other company does pre-patina before shipping out knives to the customers. The only thing we could find in the literature was ferrochloride, which is used for Damascus to give it that nice looking line. We are a Portland-based company that makes kitchen knives for your home use. There was no way we could dip it into ferrochloride, ship it to you. So we looked at 18 different materials: wine, vinegar, ketchup, mustard, anything that was kind of acidic to provide that layer of controlled protection. We settled on the coffee because it had the best, not only the best result, but also it provided both functionality and beauty. We partnered with a local coffee roaster, and in this coffee roaster, you can go in there and ask for 25 pounds of dark roast lavender flavor for your wedding coming up. They make that for you, but coffee roasting is a drying process, so you can't predict exactly if it's going to be 25 pounds or not. Since you cannot short the customer, the roaster has to always do extra, so they would end up with 2 pounds to 5 pounds of extra coffee. What would you do with Johnny's wedding party? They used to throw it away because it cannot be resold. Our knives cared less whose wedding it was, so we use that. And then coffee is organic material, so after a few weeks of being in the pot, algae grows and starch needs to be recycled. So we actually use it as a fertilizer for plants we have outside to give it a really full cycle. Going through the process, back here is our equipment are doing our handle. So if you look at the handle, every aspect of the handle is actually curved. Even the flat surface is contoured. It's a natural wood attached to forged knife. There's no way you can throw it in a machine and expect to get a perfection. Every one of them is different. So this one has to be done manually. So we built a bunch of equipment. So it's going to get a little bit noisier, so hopefully it comes through. But what Eric is doing right now is using his slack belt to do the final curvature on the handle, going through the stuff. And out of the 134 steps, 30 of them are done here just for handle process. We go through the 4 machines, and every machine has goes through 3 grits to get it finer and finer process to be able to do that. Again, requires expertise and many different stuff, because as you notice, Eric after every touch has to look at it and see how it's going on, and at the end it's really a touching feeling to make sure there's no steps remain. So continuing, I think we're going to go to our next machine, which is our serration machine. So this is another example of a homemade machine. We are very proud of our bread knife. It's a very special serration and pattern. And for doing that, you actually have to build the machine from scratch. This has a serration pattern, grind the wheel to give us exactly the serration we want. And you can see the grinding wheel here, and the whole thing has to be water cooled. because at 65 we cannot afford it to get heated up because we lose that hardness, and so the blade is actually put on the platform and then adjusted to be able to contact the grinding wheel to get the pattern that we're after. So this whole pattern took us a while to develop. The angle of attack and how deep we go is all the areas that we had to learn through experimentation and then finalizing going through it. Let's wrap up the discussions with actually showing you our full lineup. So this is a display that shows we have a total of 7 knives, blade shapes. The one that we saw earlier was our 8-inch chef knife, which is our original and still most popular blade. We have a smaller 6-inch chef knife. Again, all the same characteristics. One piece Oregon big leaf maple handle, 65 Rockwell. The big difference, besides being shorter at 6-inch, it has a curved edge, so allows it better, easier for chopping and people who have the smaller areas. All the way down to our smallest knife, a 4-inch paring knife. It feels different in your hand because it's designed for paring, but 4-inch still is large enough to be able to do cutting a quick job on the cutting board. The only specialized knife we really have is uh, our boning knife, and if you look at it, it's thinner blade and a little bit more flexible. This is designed for breaking down a chicken or breaking down lack of ram. And the big difference for this one is that typical knives are held pinch hole. Because when you're breaking down meat or fish, your hand is wet and greasy. You don't want to let it slip. So this one is actually designed to hold like a hammer with a nice bolster here to hold it in place. So there's less chance of or no chance of slipping it out. We're going to larger blade. This is our 10-inch blade and all the same characteristics. The big difference on this slicer, because it is thinner blade, you don't want, when you're cutting, you don't want your knuckle to touch the board. So it's actually curved. So it's curved when you touch it, your cutting board is touched before your actual knuckles cut. So that curvature allows you to do that. And last on this display, but not least, is our bread knife. I was referred to it earlier. This is my personal favorite. I'm admittedly a carboholic. I love the bread. And the frustration I had was that I couldn't find any good threaded knife out there. Frankly, we consider this the best bread knife in the world, not because we did magic to it, but because everybody else does lousy job in serration. And that has come back, not lack of people's ability to do great serration, but I think over time has got atrophy and people put it on the lower quality steel and they don't sharpening. You have a lifetime sharpening because again, you have the machine to do it, unserrated as well. But we developed this serration that's actually sine wave. It's 7 millimeter peak to peak. So if you look at the sine waves, it's actually 7 millimeter peak to peak. Five doesn't work, 10 doesn't work as well. We know, we tried. And then the reason for that is that tip of the serration cuts through the crust of like a baguette, or if you have needed a brisket, or for that matter, tomatoes. And the bottom part cuts through softer beef, southern meat, and areas like that. So not only you have to, but if you want to have an ultimate experience of one motion cut, not only you have to pay attention to the top and bottom, but also how it transitions. So that's how you end up with a sine wave and went through that. So we ate a lot of bread over a couple of years through that. Uh, so at the end, kind of a successful, we were covered by New York Times, actually Bread Knife was covered New York Times. But the best compliment we have gotten is our local bakers coming in and actually using it and giving us feedback as best bread knife they have ever experienced. That's our 6 knives. We have a steak knife which has the same characteristics I mentioned. It comes in 4 pieces in a one piece walnut box and a display box. The big advantage of that is, first of all, is not serrated. For steak knives, typically you see it serrated, but serrated knives actually tear through the beef and meat rather than cutting through, so we kept it straight. And the other difference is our knife is the kind of it curves up, so allows it to cut through. But the way we were able to avoid needing for serration is first of all the 65 Rockwell hardness, so we can go against some hard surfaces like ceramic plates, but also we have a lifetime sharpening. So if it gets dull, they're free for our customers to take care of it. This year, over the last couple of years, we have expanded into accessories. You can see a nice display here. This is our knife block. Again, the same three characteristics. It has to look beautiful, but that has to be functional. So if you look at this knife block, it displays the knives, but there's no exposed blades. So you have young kids, pets, it doesn't have an exposed one. And then the knife block itself has a negative space. This is our patented design. That negative space allows you grab the knife and has a nice space behind that. This is designed to go underneath the cabinet. This is at 16.5 inches tall. Typical cabinets are 17 or 18 inches tall. And also nobody has extra counter space, so that negative space gives you a place to store products into. Then expanding through our accessories, this particular one is our honing rod. So again, it has to look good, but it also has to be functional. This is the only 12-inch ceramic oval shape honing rod in the world. And 12-inch allows you to do maximum sizes and use. The oval shape actually turns out to be the best for maximizing contact. The honing is different than sharpening. Sharpening takes steel away, but honing it allows it before you need to sharpen it, allows it straightening the edge. So the maximizing the contact allows it to be an easier and better honing result. We have a beautiful scraper typing with a thick steel to allow you the flexibility of doing different functions, and the same Oregon big leaf maple handle that comes in individually or as a part of what we call baker set, which is our bread knife, sheet, and so for the bakers in life. And then the latest product we have had the kind of continued accessories. Just kind of finishing that up is like a sheet. If you don't need a knife block, sheet is a good one for storing, for carrying, typing. The same three characteristics. It is nice looking, but at the same time, it's not just simple wood. There's actually magnets in the spine. So when you put the knife in there, it actually goes in there and doesn't come out. And because of the magnet back there, it keeps the edge away from the hole. And it's also American walnut, so everything US sourced, the same three requirements. This year we have introduced our new cutting board that has been under development for 3 years. I consider that our second hardest product that we introduced in the marketplace. Our original knife was, of course, the hardest one that we put a lot of energy in there. But if you have a good knife, the first thing you're asking for is a good cutting board. That was our first request we got from our customers. The problem is that we have those three requirements. It has to be beautiful, it has to be functional, it has to be US sourced. For cutting boards, over the last 100 years, the best cutting boards have been, the cutting boards are made from end grain design, so end grain cutting boards. And frankly, we don't have any interest in just putting our name against something that already exists in the marketplace. We recommend our customers to go and enjoy the best in the marketplace. So for the last 3 years, we have been developing, what is the next level of consideration, next level innovation that can add something that also keep the traditional value of that cutting board. The result that we have come up with and introduced this year is our STEELPORT cutting board. It's a patent pending cutting board. It's the only one in the world that's truly two-sided. So this side is recycled paper composite, so it's non-porous. You do your onion, garlic, raw meat, raw fish on this side, and then flip over. And this side is a traditional best end grain walnut that we use. This really was output of some thought process. Personally, at home, I use a lot of cooking, and I use the end grain. I used to use end grain cutting board, and I use cut a lot of onion and garlic in my cooking. And I'm nearly a little bit lazy to put a white vinegar and baking soda to clean it up to get the smell out. So it was getting so bad with the onion smell that my wife was complaining that if I cut any avocados on it, I'm going to get a guacamole at the end. So this solved my personal problem of being able to do my onion and garlic on one side, simply clean it up, and then continue with my vegetables and finished good and cooked good on this side. The second differentiation that a lot of you guys are familiar with end grain cutting board is you should notice how thin this is. Typical cutting board has to be minimum of 1.5 inches to maybe 2 inches thick. Any thinner than that, it cracks, it warps, because it's basically small pieces of wood that come together and glue together. So you make that very thin, there's nothing holding together. We have been able to get the wood down to 1/2 inch by putting a steel bars inside. So between these two layers of wood and the composite material, there is a rebar, basically reinforced steel in there. That's what's keeping it flat and together. This is about 7 pounds, 6 ounces of weight, and that's about a couple of pounds less than the same size. All right, hopefully you can hear me okay now. So, all right, as we said. So that was the discussion about our two-sided cutting board with alternating 1/2 inch. And we extended that to the smaller cutting board that 6 inch by 9 inch versus the 18 by 12. And this is for areas that you want to do a quick job moving forward, like bartender, if you're doing the garnish, something that's more juicy, typing on this side and display and presentation on this side. What we are interested in finding is that it's becoming very popular for on the go type usage. So in the morning, you're cutting an apple, you don't want to watch the whole larger one. It's the easy one, just grab and be able to run with it and do your cooking and other areas. And also the newest application I've seen is for children, because I know a lot of people want to get their kids in their kitchen to have their own station going through that. And then to supplement that, we also have introduced a board conditioner. Again, the same area that we wanted to make sure that we are adding something if it's already exists in the marketplace. What we are there's no value added, and the majority, 80–90% of the wood board conditioner and wood conditioner in the marketplace right now are mineral oil based, which is petroleum based, and that brings some concerns to some people. So we really want to bring it back and have something that's truly natural. The only other ones that in the marketplace right now are coconut based. Uh, and one of the problems is that we have three requirements. The third requirement being US sourced, locally made. And last time we checked, as much as we tried, there's not many coconut trees growing in the US. So this particular board conditioner that we developed is a unique mixture of hemp seed oil and beeswax. That unique combination allows a good penetration while providing a sheen and layer of protection on the board. So that's something that we have added to support a complete whole family. So that's kind of the products lineup and production behind it. Really, the philosophy we have is our customers invest in our knives. After that, it's our job to take care of the knives. That's why truly we have the lifetime warranty and free sharpening. At the same time, our customers' job doesn't end. Our customers have to work hard to become our best salespeople. That's what we're counting on them for. And as a salesperson, the only tool that our customers have is our knives. So that if a knife in a 4 to 5 years, if it's dull, if it's cheap, if it doesn't look good, nobody else says that the user messed up and didn't sharpen and things like that. Everybody says the STEELPORT doesn't look good or STEELPORT is dull. So really that lifetime warranty, lifetime free sharpening is a little bit self-serving to make sure that for many years, or as long as anybody picks up our knife, it's the best condition and represents a STEELPORT brand the way we want to be presented and the hard work that we have. As an employee-owned company, we're very careful about making sure that this is not something that just is passing for this quarterly funding. We're not under pressure to get something out by in 3 months because we're trying to meet the profitability goal. It's really establishing something that shares our love of what we are doing and the 12 of us that are working on it. The final thing is that if you come to our factory, you see a display, and if you go to any of the stores that you might have access, you will see more than one knife of the same shape. The reason for that is we don't control nature. If you look at every product that we make, is the wood itself is different. It's a burl wood, so you can see the range of, it can be very light to very dark, very low figure to very high figure. And actually every blade is slightly different too because they're handmade, handcrafted. They're all 100% functional. We have made sure that they all meet the requirement. But aesthetics and how you want to look at it and combine very much depends on what you're looking for. And I know that a lot of people are trying to mix and match and provide sets, and that kind of allows you to make it unique type thing. And the nice thing is that when you're giving something, a gift to a friend or buying a gift for yourself, be confident that there's no other knife that looks exactly to that. If you actually give me $10,000, there's no way I can give you two knives that are identical. So that's kind of a very unique personal thing, not only something that made with care and love, the highest quality knives available from multiple aspects, but it's also unique out there. So I hope you enjoyed about 30 minutes of walking around our factory and seeing the areas. There's other videos available on YouTube that describe some of the background, some of the different products. So if there are any questions, feel free to submit it in the online, and I'm going to look at my friends here and see if there is any questions already out there.
Why is forging better than stamping?
Yeah. So there's a question of why is forging better than stamping. So if you look at forging, as I mentioned earlier, it's one piece that steel, the grains of steel remains intact. So lasts longer, it actually allows you to get harder and do the treatments. When you do a stamping, it's much easier, much cheaper, but you're already starting from a thin sheets of steel that are weaker and thinner type thing. So you get limited on what kind of heat treatments you can possibly do it. As you can imagine, if you do very crazy high temperature to very low temperature on the thin plates, you end up with a very changing and making a potato chips out of those thin ones. And the other one is that because you're starting from the sheet, there is less flexibility on what you can do. If you look at, for example, our knives, because it starts from a single forged flow, we actually can have not only one piece that doesn't fall apart and doesn't bend and break, but this is an integral part of the whole knife. This end cap and both are one piece together. So the final result allows you to have a lot better balance on your product. You cannot do that with a simple what's called stock removal or sheet type thing. So if you want something that lasts long time, feels comfortable, one piece, and reliable, forging is still the best method. Again, not only for knives, but for anything, including industrial forge. So, great question.
What are the care needs of our knives? Care?
So care and use of our knife, that's the question. So it's carbon steel, but we have done two things to make it a little bit better. One is we have done polishing, so it's less place for water to hide. And the second we have done is put that coffee patina on it that provides a layer of protection. In general, I describe carbon steel care very similar to cast iron skillet care, if you're familiar with that. And the key requirement is to make sure that you rinse and dry after use. The water water and salt water acid and the knives do not mix up well. So you cannot cut an onion or lemon and leave it overnight and forget about it. So after you use it, you can use it for anything. After you use, quick rinse, dry up, keep it dry. So if you look at actually our care kit, our care kit comes into a couple of components. One is a camellia oil for blades. You don't require to oil after every use. But the nice thing about oil that again comes in our care kit is when you apply the oil, oil and water don't mix. So by putting a layer of oil on the blade, it keeps the water away. And then there is also the handles at the end of the day is wax, so it gets is wood. So it's good to apply a little bit of wax, that same wax that you apply to cutting board works or any kind of the protection of the wood applies with, and that keeps the shine back. But again, there's a lot of horror stories about cast iron and carbon steel, and really at the end of the day, it's about the care. Just after use, rinse it, keep it dry, and leave it dry and store it in a dry place is the key. Key one for care. Thanks again for the time here. We are located in Portland at 3602 Northeast Sandy, which is the Northeast Sandy and 36 on Sandy Road in the Hollywood district. If people are familiar with the Portland area, we are sold in multiple locations around the country. So feel free to check out our website if you're outside of the region, and we have about 80 to 100 locations around the U.S. that support us in 5 different countries. So in Canada, Japan, and Europe, multiple countries that you get a chance to visit if you're local internationally. To that, we are open in the factory store, which is right in San Antonio factory. We have the tours ongoing from 9 in the morning to 5 p.m. every day, Monday to Saturday. So we open on Saturday as well. And then we have also regular events happening on the factory. Like we have a pre-Thanksgiving on Saturday, November 22nd, and then in December, like if you happen to be in Portland area in December, on every Saturday from 11 to 12, we have one chef coming in here, which is we're very excited about it. First Saturday, we have Chef Jesse from Ken's Artisan Pizza. Second Saturday in December 13th, we have Chef Brian from Nodoguru. And the third Saturday, December 20th, we have Tyler Malik, who's a founder and lead creator at Salt and Straw. So those are the stuff that we bring the community locally, and every one of those events we try to also have similar live session on YouTube. So keep your eyes open for this location for future live events and understanding. So thank you again. We won't be here without the support from our customers and users, and we are excited to continue developing new products and moving forward. Please reach out to us at our phone number or hello@steelportknife.com with any questions or suggestions. Thank you.